Good afternoon, ladies and gents. So we are well and truly on the home stretch now of this large paving project over here in Smarden. You can see behind me the pointing of the brickwork itself has been finished. We have used, as I've explained in a prior video, we've used what's called a dinging iron, donger if you're from up north, to basically get the finish of the pointing in between the bricks there. And now we move on to actually pointing our York stone. And we're doing that slightly different. We're doing what's called a bird's beak pointing joint. It's kind of like, if you're familiar with brickwork joints, it's kind of like a type of weather-struck pointing, where we use a slightly wetter mix, and we actually use the trowel to almost make a point, so like a bird's beak. So I'll just quickly show you. Oh, sorry. I'll just quickly show you how we do that. This being a traditional method, again, to complement the paving itself, but two, it's really strong. You know, the mixture that we use is a very strong 3-in-1, 2 parts plastering, 1 part sharp, and 1 part cement. So what we do, this mixture is fairly damp, but not wet enough to smear and smudge the paving and the brickwork. It's just got to be the right amount of water in the mix, to make sure that when we strike, once we've flattened down the mixture into the joint itself, and hopefully you can see that. So I haven't got the correct trowel actually. Oh, here it is, one sec. Just grab the correct trowel, that would help. So yeah, we've got this little tool here, tiny little pointing trowel. And as I say, what we're doing is we are pushing the mixture down into the joint to make sure it's really nice and full. Trying not to spill too much over the paving, just using the point of the trowel, point of the trowel to scrape up any excess and push it back down into the joints. So you get that all nice and compact into the joint. Just add a little bit more so I can show you the finish that we're looking for. So I'm just adding that in there. Okay, so we're pretty much now ready to strike the bird's beak pointing into some of the muck. So here we go. Using the pressure of the trowel and the point, keeping it slightly angled, we're simply following the angle of the brickwork, and then on the opposite side, following the angle of the stone itself. So these can be a bit wavy. Obviously, you want to try and keep your point sort of running parallel with either your brickwork or the stone itself, depending on what sort of finish you kind of want. And essentially, there we go. I've created a bird's beak pointing joint. And what we do is we let that go off for a little bit before we touch that again. We just completely let that dry out a bit. It's quite good because it's quite sunny today, so that will start to dry out. Once that's done, we cut back some of the excess and then brush it off with a nice soft brush. And of course you can see some of the stuff that I've done earlier on. Man, does it look impressive. I mean, we've got such a lot of it to do. We've got such a large expanse of paving to essentially do this process, but it is going to be worth it. It really, even this little bit here is just, it's making me excited, which is quite sad, but you know, there's a hell of a lot of work that's gone into this project, and it's nice to sort of be on the home straight. Although we've got a hell of a long way to go in terms of finishing the pointing, it's going to be really nice. And of course, there just behind the end of the York stone there, we've actually done a brick pad. Again, just to break up. I don't know if you've seen some of the photos, sort of the previous videos, but we've done a circle detail down the other end, but here we've got a brick pad leading into the greenhouse, purely just to break up the design a bit, so it looks a bit more interesting on the eye. But there we go. So wish me luck. Cheers.